So, our district has a visions and beliefs for AI in our schools. There's not necessarily a framework where we're saying this is how you have to use it. It's just a vision. Our district is very pro AI and making sure that we don't stunt our teachers and especially our students for being future ready.
Welcome to Innovating Education. I'm your host, Dr. Riley Williams, and in today's episode, we dive deep into the strategies shaping the future of AI in education. We are honored to welcome two exceptional digital learning specialists, Rachel Doty and Courtny Drydale, whose work in AI adoption is establishing a leadership benchmark that all school districts can look to for inspiration. Their rigorous policy development is reshaping digital pedagogy and fostering transformative change throughout the educational sector. I'm happy to have you join us as we examine their visionary approaches and data centric strategies. Rachel, Courtney, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Before we dive into today's discussion, I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves. Can you share a bit about your background, your roles in digital learning, and what led you to focus on AI adoption in education?
Yeah, so my name is Rachel, and before I became a digital learning specialist, I was a classroom teacher, but my road to education was a little weird. I have a degree in history, and then I went and I worked in the private sector for a while, decided that wasn't for me, so I found my way to a graduate program for library science, and so I have my master's in that area, and I taught in the classroom for 5 years, and now I'm a digital learning specialist supporting teachers with instructional technology.
And I'm Courtney Drydale. I have a master's in American Studies with an emphasis on Native American and women's studies. And I have a sort of a, a topsy-turvy way of how I got here as well, because none of my actual degrees have anything to do with what I currently do. But I have been on this team since 2017, integrating educational technology in the classroom. And since 2022, that now includes AI.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the challenges. AI is becoming a powerful tool in education, but its adoption isn't without its obstacles. From your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges educators and administrators face when integrating AI into teaching and learning?
So, one of the really big ones we're seeing is managing fears among staff. So, the fear of plagiarism, the fear of cheating is so ever present that we have a lot of teachers struggling to understand the importance of teaching students responsible and ethical use. And if our teachers fear AI, our students are only going to exploit it. So managing those fears has been a really big thing.
I agree. And then when it comes to administration, it's also making sure that they understand how AI works and making sure that they understand good prompt engineering and showing that they can use AI to help alleviate their everyday struggles and things like that as well. And so I think that that's been really a huge boon when it comes to our district of being able to have the flexibility with our leadership and not cutting off AI, but embracing it in a way that is responsible and ethical.
That leads me to how can we navigate the ethical concerns around AI, particularly regarding cheating, student data privacy, and algorithmic bias?
So one of the big things with cheating is this is an arms race at this point. There is not an AI checker that can beat a regular large language model every time. And we're seeing a lot of inherent biases in checkers and graders themselves because they're trained on the same data that all of the other programs are. And so, really, awareness is key more than anything. And teachers, students, administrators, everyone in the educational sphere really needs to learn responsible and ethical use And we need to make sure we have consequences for students who are using AI in lieu of learning. That's a big thing regarding cheating, is just there's not a simple fix. It's going to take education.
Well, and we also need to remind teachers that cheating didn't start with the conception of AI, right? Just being able to cheat off someone else's paper. So we have found ways to um, talk with students about cheating and ethics and what's right and what's wrong. And that, even though, with the invention of the calculator, people thought that that was cheating. And so I really believe that it all comes in teaching the students how to use it. And that's something that our district is still trying to figure out the best way to do when it comes to teaching our students, respecting the AI policies and the age limits that we have. So, for example, ChatGPT is, I think, 13 or and up, and so we have all of the AI that has those kind of age restrictions blocked for those specific grade levels. Whereas Canva for Education just released that their AI is 100% usable throughout K 12. And so we were able to turn on AI all across the board with Canva because we had those guarantees. And so it's just really making sure that you check the landscape of what AI is giving you around you and hope that you've got the best leadership that is looking forward and is innovative, but also still makes sure that our children, their data is still protected as well.
Now that we've outlined the key challenges, I think we should talk about what the research is saying. Are there any key studies or trends that educators should pay attention to when developing AI driven strategies?
So, one of the big trends that I think if you talk to any, especially high school teacher, they would know immediately, but studies are showing now, is that up to 90% of high school students are using AI regularly. And so teachers need to be aware that kids are using it, and it doesn't mean they're using it to cheat. Some kids might be, maybe they need a more colloquial definition of a word than Google is offering. So they're going to Gemini, they're going to ChatGPT and asking for a word to be used in sentences or for a more colloquial definition. So it can be something as simple as that. But if teachers think their students aren't using AI, they are already behind. Kids are using it, and even if they're not using it for school, they're using it at home. It is everywhere. It's ever present.
And one of the things that our district is doing to help with that is we created an acceptable use rating scale. It's a rubric that we're going to be introducing to our teachers, specifically our ELA secondary teachers, about actually allowing AI use within their assignments. Like, we have allowing him wholeheartedly, so full AI use with human oversight, all the way down to this assignment is not allowed to have AI used at all, because we really want to make sure that everybody is being able to use something that can help them with accessibility. We've got our English language learners who are constantly, they're fighting an uphill battle trying to learn the content as well as trying to learn the language. And AI is something that can give them a leg up, and I think that we should use that as a way to make sure that we're giving everything that we can to the diversity of our district.
So, how do AI tools present challenges or biases for ESL students, and what does the research say about mitigating these bias?
So there's actually a lot more research coming out about AI and EL students specifically. So AI can be extremely helpful for EL students on the front end when they're doing their work. It can help rephrase questions. It can help translate things more effectively than maybe Google Translate can. Where we're seeing a lot of the problems are with the AI grading platforms and the AI checkers. There are often false positives or poorer scores given for EL students For the newcomers, this is because AI models are typically trained on standard English and they may be using more slang or a mix of two languages. So for newcomers, it's the standard English problem. AI is looking for a sentence looks like this, and maybe that's not quite what that newcomer's sentence looks like. But it's even affecting our fluent EL learners. They've been here for years. Typically, a student who is an EL student who has reached fluency in the English language is going to write in a more formal and more formulaic style than a native English speaker. And so it's catching that as AI because it doesn't sound to the AI as natural as a native English speaker. And so even our kids who they've got straight A's, they're writing their own content, they're doing a great job, they're not a native English speaker, and AI checkers are catching them 80% of the time. And so mitigation, really, platforms should be taking some responsibility for this. They need to be feeding their algorithms more diverse data. And we hit a real difficult point there, right? Diverse data without infringing on intellectual property. And I know that's a struggle, but it's one they should be trying to face. They should be transparent about the data they use. And I really think that some built in biasy checkers or notifications would be good. Like, okay, so this student has been flagged for AI usage, but maybe are they an English language learner? Maybe have a conversation with that student and make that known in the output from the AI. And we really, more than anything, have to train teachers to recognize that these platforms do have these shortcomings. Like if you teach EL using an AI checker is not going to be great for those kids.
Well, and another thing that we also need to make sure that our teachers are understanding is I was watching a PD about AI, and it was a panel with like three children of different ages with the panelist, and they were talking about how students are getting in trouble for using AI with assignments, but teachers are using AI to grade said assignments. So in the end, it's really AI is doing the homework and AI is doing the grading. And I thought that that was a brilliant thing to bring up because I never thought of it that way. But teachers really need to know how their students write, how they speak. I think that AI is pushing even more humanity into the classroom because you have to be able to know your students and know where they're at. So get those writing samples at the beginning of the year, get them mid-year to see their growth, and do it without having a device in front of them. Have them do those writing samples, pencil and paper. I don't think that that's a very hard concept. That just might be difficult for those teachers who are just relying on the technology just to do it all for them.
Switching gears a little bit, how do AI driven learning platforms need to evolve to better accommodate neurodivergent learners?
So we're actually seeing a lot of the same problems in neurodivergency that we're seeing with EL. Often neurodivergent students will write in a more formulaic, more formal pattern. So often their sentences are the same length approximately. Their paragraphs are the same length, which if you think back to those of us who finished college pre-AI, in high school, that's how we're all trained to write. You write a 5-paragraph essay. Every paragraph has this many sentences. You need to have this, this, this. That's getting caught by AI endlessly. And that's how our neurodivergent students often write. And so we need to address those problems the same way we're addressing EL, but we're actually seeing a lot of success for neurodivergent students with AI as well. If we can train those kids to prompt, they can create a personalized tutor who works within their own neurodivergency. We're seeing accommodation options everywhere. They're really piecemeal right now is the problem. Like your text to speech platforms and your color correction for colorblind students may be device specific, but then a lot of the options that support executive functioning, like scheduling or planners, those are all applications or extensions. So I would love to see in the next 3, 5, 10 years those things come together under one big platform. Because right now it's just, oh, I need this Pomodoro tool for my timer. I need this for my planner. I need this for my other thing. But I think 5-10 years, we're going to see you'll get a Chromebook and it's going to have it. You'll get a MacBook, it's going to have it. And that will be really great to see.
That's $1 million idea.
I don't have anything to add to that. She was just utter perfection.
So, bridging the gap between research and practice, how can educators use these research findings to make more informed decisions about which AI tools to implement in their classrooms?
I mean, stuff's coming at us at the speed of light right now. So, what we're encouraging more than anything is stay aware, stay as informed as you can. And we know it's a lot. We are lucky enough to work in a district that employs our team, and it's our job to filter that research out to our teachers. And so that's the big thing. Districts have to be supporting this, and really states as well. And if you're an island classroom, you're out, you're by yourself, it can feel overwhelming, it can feel really hard, and it is. And so leaning on whatever educational groups or organizations you can is really key. I think we're pretty much of the opinion that this is something that reviewing the research, figuring out which platforms are best, purchasing platforms for student use, that really should be district policy. And for teachers who are in districts who don't have that sort of support, reach out to your local ISTE group. See if your school librarians know something that maybe you don't. Like, it's awareness is key and hard to do.
I agree. I feel like even our team, and we're trying to narrow down the best use tools. In the end, it's not about the tool, it's about knowing how to prompt AI. If you have the training of prompt engineering and you understand the basics of AI, right now I'm reading Co-Intelligence by Ethan Mollick, which is talking about living and working with AI. And it talks about just making sure that it doesn't matter if I open up Magic School or School AI or ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these things, if I ask it a good prompted question, it will give me an answer that's similar to what I need no matter what platform I'm on.
So, we've talked challenges, we've talked about the research. Now, let's look at some potential solutions. Your work in AI adoption is setting a leadership benchmark for schools. What policies or frameworks have you found to be the most effective in ensuring AI is implemented both responsibly and equitably?
So, our district has a visions and beliefs for AI in our schools, but we have multiple things, right? There's not necessarily a framework where we're saying this is how you have to use it. It's just a vision. Our district is very pro AI and making sure that we don't stunt our teachers and especially our students for being future ready. So we want to make sure that when something new comes out, our team is training our teachers on how to use it, making sure that when age limits apply, students are not allowed to use certain things. I mentioned the rubrics earlier that we're creating for ELA specifically because that's one of the ones that is the loudest subject in our area right now that is talking about AI. And so that's something that we've put together and we're hoping is able to help push us forward when it comes to AI adoption.
I think that's a really great thing that you just touched on about staying adaptable as the AI technology is rapidly evolving. What would you say are the key components to a strong AI policy for school districts?
I think making sure that you start with clarity. AI has the potential to revolutionize teaching and learning. It already has. The key is to think that AI is a partner to enhance human capabilities and not to replace them. They're not there to replace the teachers. We also have to make sure that when creating an AI policy or a vision, that you're explaining the why. The why is one of the most important things when you are bringing anything to a teacher or a classroom. Just one more thing can't be added onto their plates. It's just one more thing every school year, right? New curriculum, new initiatives, new this, new this. So you have to really be thoughtful in how you bring this to teachers and instruction. You need to show them how it supports instruction and how it helps grow students as critical thinkers. Most importantly, the vision and the policies, it should protect the students, centering on equity, privacy, and ethical use in everything we do.
Do you want to add anything, Rachel?
I think she's covered it pretty well. I think the only point where our teachers get a little frustrated and we do a little explaining is if your district is adopting a policy or a framework or a vision, a best use, whatever you want to call it, and they have approved platforms. We've approved platforms for a reason. And so, yeah, you saw this cool thing on TikTok. It's great. And you want to use it. Sure, run it by your team, but understand that those policies, those procedures, those frameworks are coming with a research backing. And we're not just saying, no, you can't use this. We're saying, we've done the research, we've vetted the products, and these are the ones that we've determined are best for our district.
So, speaking about accountability measures, is there anything that we should be aware of um, to evaluate whether AI is being used responsibly in schools?
So for me, it's accountability. It doesn't need to mean punishment, right? It can mean reflection, transparency, and growth. I think that we should encourage students and teachers to share how they're using AI, making sure that they're citing it when they're using it. And our team is very good on reflection of the things that we bring into the districts. So making sure that we have rubrics and assignments that have checkpoints for our students in thinking visibly, and having PDs that should help educators feel confident about what responsibility actually looks like in using AI. That it's okay if a kiddo is writing a paper and they go and they use AI to, like, Notebook LM and put in a few articles and ask it to summarize the articles. That is a really good use of AI and being able to understand the material that they're being given. And I would not put that as cheating. I would put that as someone, you went to a tutor and you learned more, because it's not spitting out, this is the exact answer. It's saying, hey, here's how you could think about this process in a different way. So at the admin level, regular audits of tools like student data privacy checks and community conversations can help keep us aligned with accountability.
And I just want to really touch on something Courtney said right there. AI can be just like using a tutor. If you go back pre-AI, tutoring is not something our socioeconomically disadvantaged students had access to outside of school. So this is an equity bridge. AI can improve learning for our students who need it the most. If you really think about it, AI tutors are just something that kids of higher socioeconomic classes, kids with wealth, have had access to the entire time.
That's a great point. You guys have talked a lot about student data privacy. What should educators know about implementing AI driven tools with regard to protecting student data privacy?
So, really, when it comes to data privacy, it's a two-prong approach. First is you've got to know your internet safety basics. If you go to this new hot AI website and you can't find their policies listed on their website, don't use them. They should be transparent. You shouldn't be using a product that doesn't tell you exactly what they do with your data for school. Look at the age restrictions, review their policies. And like I said, if they're not available, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But it's not just that. That's protecting yourself from corporations using your data. We also have to teach our teachers and students how to protect their own data. AI doesn't need to know your full name and your address. And so we have to teach students not to put that in there because they are. We're at a very strange point in the history of technology right now where all of our adults didn't grow up with this. And we all grew up with like MySpace, and the people who had access to your MySpace were probably people you knew. And, they already know where you live. They're your friends. Then we got into Facebook, and now they're strangers, but it's like friends of friends. And so a lot of our adults don't have that basic internet safety. And there's those of us that do, but we've had to look for it. We weren't taught in school this kind of stuff. We went straight from stranger danger, never get in a car with a stranger, to Uber. These have all existed within our adult lifetimes. And so we need to equip our educators to help our students learn this safety and privacy stuff. And often we're seeing our kids know it before our teachers do. And so it's adult education because it didn't happen when these adults were children.
I also think that a lot of it is the adult education of it, right? When I was doing a training on AI for our district, I was walking around and some teachers were like, Antonio is this. And I'm like, no, you can say I have a neurodivergent student who is on a behavior intervention plan and needs this, this, and this in order to be safe in my classroom. And you can ask for games to play, you can ask for these things, but we're not going and saying specifically this student's name or this student ID. And so it was sort of for me at that moment, an aha of, oh, they don't know that they shouldn't be putting this kind of information into AI. We also have to make sure that we vet the AIs. If we're adopting it as a whole entire district, we need you to sign our privacy policy. My team has brought in multiple new products this past year, and that's one of the biggest things that our executive director talks about is we need to make sure I need to know what you're doing with my kids' logins, what you're doing with their keystrokes, what you're doing with these specific things. And that's something that we have to stay really prevalent and vigilant on.
I've even seen things where computers are able to track eye movements now of the students. So, another thing that I'm thinking about just as we're talking, let's say I have a student who submits their work to me digitally. I go into AI, whatever it may be, Google, Gemini, ChatGPT. I put in their work. What I'm hearing from you guys is that is not an appropriate use for student data because then they could collect that on the student. Am I right?
So for grading and for platforms like that, we would actually recommend looking at the products that are designed to integrate for grading. So, for example, one of them that's available that's been around forever, Turnitin. Turnitin has an AI checker now. One that our virtual teachers really love is called Brisk, and Brisk basically is a Google Docs layover that will help grade. But if you can avoid taking content from one platform and feeding it to another, that's key.
And I will also say that if you're in a district that isn't as innovative as our district, go and look at other districts' websites and see what products they've approved because they should be transparent with the things that they're using within their district. And so if our district is saying, yes, you can use Brisk, yes, you can use these things, then the likelihood of your students still being protected and all of those things is a lot higher than just Googling a AI checker and using a random one off of the internet. And so I think that that is something that you should also keep in mind if you're trying to implement more AI tools into your district is talk to other districts that are surrounding you and see what they're doing with it.
I think we're very lucky to have you guys on because you are ahead of the curve. So I want to ask each of you, what is one key takeaway that you want educators to remember from this discussion?
AI does not replace you. It does not replace those everyday interactions with your students. It does not replace you knowing your student's dog's name. It does not replace um, those inherently human needs that we have face to face. It is there as a tool to help enhance things that you're already doing. It's there as a way to take some things off of your plate. But you are the most important person to those students, and you're there to protect them, love them, and help them learn.
And I agree with Courtney. If COVID and AI taught us anything, it's that teaching is an inherently human act. And it also taught that raising kids is not to be done on an island. And for parents out there, the first part of your village is your kids' teachers. And for teachers, you are the first part of the village. It's parents, it's grandparents, it's you. And so I think COVID really proved that. And then the only other thing I would add is we have to be as transparent as we're expecting these companies and our students to be about AI usage. If you're a teacher and you're using AI, tell your students, like, hey, students, I graded this with AI. If you want to question it, question it. Because if you're going to question their work because you think they're using AI, they should be allowed to question yours or parents or whoever. But it's not something to be feared. I think it is something to be respected, but we have to give as much as we're expecting of people when it comes to AI.
That is fantastic advice, you guys. I want to thank you both so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Innovating Education. We're so proud to be supported by the Solvia Learning Group, whose commitment to advancing education makes conversations like these possible. So if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with your fellow educators so we can keep bringing you these thoughtful conversations. Until next time, keep exploring new possibilities in learning.